Hello, Karen. Welcome to Awaken and Align.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
Karen, what a name to have. Right?
Yes, definitely. Especially, thank God I'm Latina.
Yeah, or I
But
don't
yeah,
know. So just to give everybody a little background, I met Karen in 2019. She came to one of my full moon circles in Brooklyn, and then again at another event in the city we were just talking about this, the Saturn Pluto conjunction in January of 2020 before everything went down. And then the last person I saw before I went into quarantine, before the panorama, the panicotta, was Karen, her sister, and a group of us that were doing a full moon circle. And I didn't even realize it at the time, but I was kind of watching you from afar. We were liking each other's posts about BLM and being, women of color, trying to speak out against these things. And you went through quite a journey in 2020. So I wanted to talk to you 1 year after about your year. So welcome.
yeah, it's been quite a year. Like many of us, it's been a journey. It's been difficult. It's been an awakening for so many. And, you know, like so many of us, it was a struggle at the very beginning of the pandemic for me. And I wanted to find that time to work on myself and find my real purpose in life. And I took that time in the beginning to just kind of do inventory with friends, with relationships, with career, everything, and I also wanted to use that time to educate myself. And I saw it as, even though it's a very hard time for so many, people were getting sick and dying, and really scary about what's to come, because we all had no idea. As someone that works freelance, it was scary for me financially as well, not knowing when my next job will be, and for so many. So I just thought, I'm going to channel the inner goddess of being positive and trying to focus on the good. And you actually helped me in that journey too, when we had our circle. Mm-hmm. And that was something that really helped me with bringing in abundance. And I started doing things like, I was going back to school online, and I was learning how to graphic design. I was learning how to web design, and I wanted to learn more things. I wanted to better myself, because I figured that this will probably never happen again. Mm-hmm. So while we have this time of rest, and that's what I was trying to call it. So I even tried to change the narrative of a time for rest, because if I kept on thinking, it was this horrible pandemic, I felt, for me, I had to put the direction of it being a time to slow down and rest. So that's when I was just wanting to better myself. And then, my business kind of just happened. It came out of a passion project. I did not think of it being a lucrative business. I just thought, let me design something that I know women and people didn't have, because we were at that point when masks were so scarce, like no one can find them. I think even on Amazon, we were having a hard time finding them. And I just put pen to paper and started designing. And I saw certain things that I didn't like about the masks. I didn't like how they looked so masculine, and they didn't come in sizes. And I said, how do we not have sizes? And, masks were originally designed for protection for the medical use, and mostly thinking about men. So I said, why don't I design a mask that caters for women and that makes us look more flattering on us, masks. And they come in sizes, and think about fabrics that I thought I would like if I had to put on my face, something that's breathable, something that's soft. And, you know, I was planning ahead of the future on how I want to carry myself when I get out of lockdown and when we slowly start going back to work. How do I want to look? How do I want to carry myself? That's the first thing we see is our faces.
Mhm.
So that's how the business evolved, basically. And I put in my little bit of my styling background in it with attaching jewelry on it, which is like my way of styling your mask. And then it became functional. And this whole mask and chain thing happened. And then that's how it happened with Second Wind. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually, when you were talking, it reminded me of this little thing that you had us do where you had this little potted plant and you said, bury your wishes into the soil. Do you remember what you wished for? And I'm assuming it came true.
Yeah, I did remember. You remember, my sister's here too. She was in the circle. Yeah, I remember what I wished for. I don't know if I want to say what it was, but it did come true. And I felt that that day specifically was such a powerful day for all of us. I felt like there were so many of us that felt so many emotions that day, and we felt like an energy. At least for me, and the other women were saying the same thing. I felt this energy of comfort and release, and I was ready for something new, I think, and I know that so many of us were feeling like that when we were kind of meditating and we were sitting in the circle, and I felt your energy and it was so amazing. It's so magical. And so many of us felt the same way. So I don't know, I think that was kind of like the beginning of what's happening now. That was kind of, I know you were talking about that with us on how everything is shifting completely, how the actual where we're supposed to be will be coming up. And it's crazy how this all happened and how you kind of predicted this all happening.
No, and I didn't know it was gonna come out in that way, but I just could feel the energy building up. And
yeah,
I mean, a year later, we're 1 week from a year ago that literally our lives are completely different. And when I met you, you were a stylist, and I'm assuming you still are. But I remember so clearly that night, we all wanted to just do something new. We were ready for the next step. And so
yeah,
as I was following along with you in this journey, which, everyone sees the top of the iceberg. Everyone sees, oh my God, she has this amazing company called By Second Wind. But those of us who know you, it was like many, many years in the making. It was that idea that you had, but all the hard work and struggles that went into it were many, many years behind that. But I just wanted to ask you, because you started making these, by the way, they're beautiful. I mean, everyone has to check out these masks. And I remember that time because I was looking for a mask, and every time I looked on your website, they'd be sold out. I'd be like, can a girl get a mask? And my sister's a nurse, so she actually would come home with the mask, and I was like, this isn't pretty. I want to walk around like this. But when did you start to realize that what you were creating was going to be like not just a 2020 kind of thing, but something that's going to last?
Well, I mean, I realize now because we are in a different world now, and I think people are more alert. They're more aware of things like in the environment, about health, about taking care of yourself. And I know that it's something that, it's actually very, very normal in other parts of the world, with protecting yourself from pollution, protecting yourself from anyone being sick. And I was just kind of in shock that there was nothing really ever, available, because there's been other countries and other cultures that do this. So I think I realized it when the demand came from everywhere, from consumers, from department stores, from celebrities. So yeah, I feel like masks are going to be here. They're going to stay. And, you know, I'm also a big advocate and people, I'm not anti vaccine or anything, because I think everyone needs to make a choice what they feel is right for them. And because I want everyone to get back to, there's never going to be a real normal, I feel, but we need to get to a point that, you know, businesses can go back to normal. And you know, because I know a lot of people are suffering, and I'm also going to evolve my brand into other things. So the way that I started my brand was for protection and to look fashionable, but I also made a brand that is fashionable and functional. So there's so many avenues in that, and I have so many other things that I'm coming up with that are fashionable and functional pieces. But yeah, I mean, I'm doing really well with in the US still currently, and also all around the world. You know, I'm just in shock with people from Australia and Dubai and London and Paris that, you know, come to me and are so happy. And what makes me feel good is that I constantly get messages and emails from people saying that I get so many compliments when I walk down the street, and it makes me feel good, because just wearing a mask in our time now is, you know, super daunting and makes everyone feel a little sad, and I totally understand, but this is kind of like, it's like a boost of morale. It makes me feel good, and that's what I hear all the time, and that really makes me so happy all the time.
Yeah. Well, you made such a good point, because when I travel around the world, especially in Asia, they've been wearing masks since like forever. Anytime I go to Asia, they, you know, at the airport, Korea specifically, they've been wearing masks since like many, many years ago. So I actually was surprised at how politicized masks became in America, because to me, it's not about me. It's more about protecting other people. And I thought, well, most New Yorkers got on board with that, and maybe it's because we're such a densely populated place, but I was shocked at how politicized it got in other places around the like United States. Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had my share of criticism from outside of New York and LA, definitely. And I think, you know, the narrative that was put by our last president was that it was taking away your rights, and that it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with protecting yourself and respecting others and respecting the healthcare workers. But, you know, I have to just kind of like ignore all that nonsense, because that's not what I started this brand for. You know, any of that nonsense, it has to do with feeling good, uplifting yourself and starting again, you know, and I don't ever want to bother with that stuff, because I get it all the time, trust me.
I know. It's so, again, like what you said about the anti-vax thing, everyone is entitled to their own like rights, whatever you think is impinging on your rights by wearing a mask. But I don't know. I feel like it's the one thing we can do to get back to normal, quote unquote.
Absolutely.
Am I crazy? I don't know. Again, like I went through this in New York, and when I see on Instagram or TikTok, you know, places around the country where nobody's wearing a mask, it makes me like, anyway, it's a very political thing that masks have become. It's crazy. Okay, so let's just look back at 2020 and the buildup of everything that happened. And I know this might be a PTS moment for all of us, but we go through lockdown, you make these masks, you have a huge demand, you're getting all this press, and your business is building, and then BLM is happening, and our country's kind of like all sensitive and stuff, and it still is, obviously.
Yeah.
And then something unfortunate happens to you, where she's a popular influencer. Is that what she's called? I don't even know.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
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 Who legitimately like stole your designs, like stole your mask design. And there's like argument whether, if you follow a pattern, like I don't really know how design works, but if you follow a pattern, it's not really copying, but it really looked like she was copying. Can you tell us, you don't have to go into the whole story, if you want to give a little background, but what were your thoughts when you were going through that process?
Whew. Well, it definitely hit me really hard, because when that whole thing happened, I got the message on my DM of what her intentions were and what she was planning on doing. And I felt like it was a very selfish thing, and she was completely unaware of what she was doing. And maybe that's part of her upbringing, I don't know, but it was something that was really, really hard, because I put so much of my energy and like hours and no sleep, and mind you, I was launching this and I started this process when we were in lockdown, when we were technically not even allowed to be out. It wasn't safe. And I had to find my way to like a back door through a fabric store in New York, with all of them were closed. And I had to find my way, and materials were so scarce. And, it was the way that she presented it and what she was going to do was so hurtful. And, it's definitely a learning lesson that I am taking with, protecting your stuff, protecting your magic. I think that's always important, especially with the business. And luckily I was already in the process of working on a patent for my design. There was this very specific design element that was taken from that specific influencer, which was a loop on my mask that attaches a chain. And that was the main component that she copied. And obviously the style and the fabric and the color and the function of it. So yeah, it was really hurtful, but I've grown from it. I learned a lot from that whole experience. And I wouldn't change the whole experience, because even though it was extremely hurtful, and I did go through a lot of other things that I never discussed about, she does have a big platform, of millions of fans and followers. And, I started with a couple, not even 2,000 followers for my brand, and it was so new. And, you can only imagine the people that were her supporters were going after me, in my business, because I know that she was voicing how people were bullying her, and I was totally against that, because I never wished that upon anyone, especially any kind of threats or anything like that. It's totally against my beliefs, and I never would condone that at all. That's not something I would ever do. But I also had the same repercussions, because she also had millions of people that were supporting her. So that was really hard for me to deal with. And then, there's also, things with race that I had to deal with, that were really hurtful. And I never talked about that, so, and also all the eyes and the pressure I had when I became so popular was really stressful because I wanted to make sure that I lived up to, you know, this brand that I started. And I didn't have the capital. I didn't have any real plans. I didn't have any real business model to look, you know, I don't have mom or dad, you giving me the money to start a business, or calling, you know, this rich aunt or uncle, or, you know, your rich neighbor. I didn't have that, you know, everything came from my own money. You know, when I first bought the materials for my first, because overnight, basically it became a success, and we sold a ton overnight. We sold out, and I had to literally empty out my whole bank account in order to buy materials. And I was left with like less than $10. And I believed in it. I had so many people believing in me, and it was scary. You know, all of this, you know, it's still scary because I'm learning new things every single day. I don't have like all these people to, you know, talk to about business things. So I'm just learning every single day. And, but in the end of the day, I'm super grateful for everything, for this experience. It has, you know, grown into something I could never imagine. You know, the people that reached out to me, the magazines, the press that we've received has been amazing. And it's all happened organically. And I'm so proud of that, you know? So this whole experience has been really interesting.
Well, it was so interesting, like seeing it from afar, and I didn't want to bother you because, like, I wrote you a message and I was like, I hope you're okay. Yeah. I slid into your DMs and I think I text messaged you and I was like, I hope you're okay. But I remember one day looking on Diet Prada, which if you want to look at what we're talking about, they have all the receipts there. But I was just like, that's my friend. And I think what struck a chord with a lot of us was that even though we didn't know what you were going through, what the optics were was that here is this rich, privileged white girl who has 2 million followers. And I mean, the receipts are there. The receipts are in plain sight for everybody to see. And here you are, a Latina woman, like scraping all of her resources together without backing from, I don't know, like Macy's or wherever she has her rich parents or whatever she has, and really creating your business from the ground up. And then to have somebody just swoop in, but almost like in a very shady manner, like, I wish I had the receipts in front of me, but like very shady as fuck, you know? And then to see somebody as like amazing as you who works so hard to get taken advantage of, I think that's what struck a chord with everybody. We were all like, that is us. That could be us.
Yes, absolutely.
I just felt so betrayed for you. And then, you know, I believe in karma, which is why I choose not to speak badly about anybody. I don't believe in cancel culture, but I do believe in accountability. And this person doesn't even, like, it doesn't seem like it's entered her consciousness that she's done something wrong, and she continually does this. But I will say that the one thing, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, the one thing that did come out of this that looked like what worked in your favor was all of the press and all of the attention you were getting for your brand.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think a lot of people could relate, or they felt like they were, oh, I'm sorry, hold on one second. Sorry. Sorry. I get a lot of calls. What was I saying? So I think a lot of people could relate to my story, and yeah, just like you were saying, they were just like, no, that could have been me. And I've been in the same situation many times with, even before Second Wind, you know, there's been many times that I've been overlooked. in so many instances with job interviews and even like, you know, applying for school. And because I don't have this pedigree, or if I don't know this person, that person, you know, even though I have just the amount of skills and I have the experience, and I'm overlooked. And that was kind of what people were identifying with, the fact that this person would just kind of dismiss you and take for themselves and for their own. And people are fed up with that, especially now in this new world that we're in. You know, we want people to be held accountable for things, you know, for so many things, you know, with what's going on with Black Lives Matter, with everything, what's going on with the Asian community, and what's going on with immigrants. I mean, there's so many things that we're sick of it. And I think this was kind of its own little way of seeking justice for like the small person like me. So, you know, I think it's amazing how we as a community, we can come together as a collective, and with coming together, we can make things happen. And I think my success really has to do with the people, and with the people that came together in my favor, and they saw, you know, I had nothing to hide. I spoke my truth. And another thing I do want to bring up is that I never went to the tabloids. I never presented it to anyone. I had a customer that purchased my mask and saw that she was doing the same thing, and she pointed it out to me. And I already knew that she was going to make it. And I didn't know she was going to make it in less than a month. And she brought it up to my attention, and many of my own customers. And they messaged iPrada, they messaged all these, you know, news media people. And, you know, I'm not one to go to the tabloids or anything like that. And it just happened organically with everyone coming together and trying to stand up for what's right. You know, at that time, you know, I was scared, because I thought, here's somebody with so much power that has 2 million followers, and what am I going to do? I don't have that pedigree. I don't have that, you know, there's no way that someone would care. You know, I just didn't think that no one would really care. And I just thought I guess I just have to deal with it. And I have to, you know, figure out on my own. I'm going to have to market, and I have to revamp. I have to just figure it out, you know? And then when people came together and pointed this out, that's how this all happened, you know? And, you know, I was interviewed, and I was questioned on what happened, and I spoke my truth. You know, I had nothing to hide. And that's when I think as a community, we can make a lot of things happen. And that's what happened with me, you know?
I was just getting colonization vibes. And I'm not, you know, I'm pretty outspoken about this stuff. Like, just the whole way it happened, like the taking and the copying. And I was just like, come on, you know, I watch a lot of TikTok, and that all infiltrated into my consciousness too. And I'm just like, how am I ever going to escape from this situation here? But I do want to ask though, like, have you ever, after all this happened, do you know of anybody who has talked to her about it, or have you brought it up to her being like, yo, that was not right?
No, we actually have never spoken. We never exchanged words. You know, I really wanted to move past the whole situation because it was just kind of turning into something that I didn't want to be a part of, that negativity. And so, yeah, we've never spoken, and I'm okay with that. I just want to keep it moving.
I just wonder, you know, a lot of white people have this blind spot about their privilege. And you were talking about this certain, you know, I grew up in New York, so this certain 1%er vibe of, and I know the type because I used to hang around them. They have a house in the Hamptons, their husband makes a lot of money, they dress a certain way, they eat at certain restaurants, and if you have grown up with that lifestyle, then you're completely blind to how people live, 10,000 feet below you. So if nobody makes her accountable, if nobody, and I'm sure she's not blind, like she sees all of these things, then how are these people ever going to learn?
Well, I think that's when, it comes with the media, and it comes with the news and about educating people. I think we're doing that more now with accountability, just that in general, with with Black Lives Matter and so many things that are happening right now. I think accountability is something that hopefully with this new administration is going to happen. And I think, having representation and that's the thing, there really is barely any representation for people of color in general. So now things like in music, in movies, in award shows, for some time, people were like, what the hell? We don't have anyone of color ever winning or ever nominated. Yeah. So now we I think, like the media and the creative world, they're finally getting it. And it's coming into everyone's faces. It's like, we need to be represented. And I think that's how, it's a small part, but I think that's how slowly people can understand. And I get it. I mean, we can't be raising everyone. Everyone has their own backgrounds. Everyone is brought up super differently. They have different economic, situations going on. But I think a lot of it will help if the news and the media and culture in the arts, if it's brought out in the forefront of inclusion, I think that'll help people understand a little bit more. And I've been super lucky with that, with the media reaching out to me, and putting a face in front of the mask and sharing my story, of what happened to me and how anyone can do a business. Because if with me, what happened to me, like I don't come from any kind of rich family or anything, and I worked so freaking hard, and I never thought this would happen. So if I can make this happen, anyone can do it. So I'm so super lucky with all of the media, and also the product speaks for itself. I did something really well, and I get so many compliments. So many people love it, and it shows that if you are creative and if you have a great idea and you put all your energy and your heart into it, it will do well. It will be successful. You have to believe in your product. You have to believe in yourself and your product, and it will show for itself. And then now that the world is changing little by little and people are being more recognized, I think that'll help. And then maybe that'll change things around with people that are not of color. Maybe this will show them a little bit. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think I'm also a big believer in leading by example. And I always try to do that in general with people I work with. And I always try to be compassionate with everyone that don't understand my world or people that suffer. And I try to explain a little bit. I think when we come together again, it's the best way for us to grow.
Yeah. Wow. I loved everything you just said. I love the part where you said, when you just are creative, you believe in yourself, you can make it happen. And all of this was just, you had an intention to create more space for yourself, to restore, to rest. And that is how kind of the creative juices were starting to flow. And then the energy behind that was, oh, I'm creating something that's going to help protect people. And I'm just looking at all the places you were featured on. You were featured on Vogue 3 times, Elle twice, WWD, what is that?
Oh, Women's Wear Daily.
Okay.
It's like the fashion newspaper. It's like,
Okay.
it's a big deal.
I'm like not into fashion. So, okay, that's a big deal. New York Times, Refinery 29, 17, Glamour, Nylon, HuffPost, Who, What, Where, Ola Gracia, NBC, GMA, E, and more. And you met AOC. Okay, like out of all of these experiences, first of all, I'm super jealous because she is my like one and only hero. And out of all of these experiences, what was the one that was just like you like were pinching yourself?
Wow. I mean, there's so many. But definitely the top two would be meeting AOC. Well, first getting her beautiful message she sent me privately. And I literally was in tears when I received it. And how she was, touched by my story and how she wanted to support me. And she was knowing, even though she didn't even know me, that she understands what I'm going through, and to keep my head up and keep pushing, pa'lante, as you say in Spanish. And it was an emotional experience when she messaged me, and then, wanted to purchase a mask. And when we, because we were making them at the time, my masks were made to order. Mm-hmm. So when I got these massive sales, it took a while to get all of that going. That's another story in itself. But when her mask was ready, because we had it all planned out, of we were making them as orders came in, and her mask was ready. I emailed her and I said that her mask is ready, and then which address she would want us to send her mask. And she messaged us saying she would like to come and pick it up herself. And I was like, in shock. I literally screamed so loud. And I was screaming so loud, and she was coming the next day, and I was like, oh my God, I want to make sure that our space is ready for her. And of course, not knowing that she was going to feature me on her Instagram, and she was filming everything. I was not ready for that. I thought she was just going to say hello, say hi to people, get her mask and leave. But she made it a point to recognize me and my team, and sit down and see the process, and feel the fabric, and try it on, and have a full experience. And one thing about her is that she understands her platform. She understands that, there's a lot of people that look up to her, and she makes sure that she gives her time, because it was something so special to me, and I knew that she made it special. And she, just doing a story on her Instagram was insane. The fact that she, we were hanging out and we were chatting, and, I felt like I made a new friend because we had so many things in common. And it was just like such an amazing experience. And then she follows me on my personal Instagram, and yes, homegirl messages me. We message each other. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. She's my ride or die forever.
Yes. Well, I watched her documentary, obviously, on Netflix, and your stories are very similar because she was going against a white dude who was in office for like thousands of years, and she was basically going against the institution, somebody who's like more established, doesn't really care about the people. I mean, I can't say that for the other girl, but and to be taken advantage of so deeply by the system, I just thought, wow, what a parallel. And she grew up in the Bronx, amazing story.
Mm-hmm. No,
so it's the top two. What was the other one?
Well, I mean, I think the New York Times, that was, I mean, it's that. I mean, I have something else that's happening that's pretty up there. I don't know if I want to talk about it yet. But yeah, the New York Times, I think it was on such historic issue as well, right after Biden hit the ceremony for the inauguration. The fact that I'm on that issue was insane. So just to be recognized by such a historic and powerful and well-known newspaper, you know, I thought that was an insane accomplishment. So, and the fact that also know that all these people, they reach out to me. I'm not like soliciting, I'm not like trying to reach out to any publication. They come to me, and it's I'm just in shock, because when I got when I got the email from them, I was like, what? They're done? I was like, what? And I wasn't even sure if I was reading it correctly, but yeah, no, that was just amazing, you know. I mean, but there's so many publications and interviews and that and also there's even like students and everything I cherish so much, and it's been an amazing experience, the whole thing.
Oh my God, this is so inspiring. This is why I knew I had to interview you, because literally your life changed within a year, and you just had this one idea of a mask, and it's like all of your dreams coming true. And I even remember that day we all saw each other, and we were talking about, because we're all political as well, we were talking about number 45 and, you know, our love for Bernie and all that stuff, and so glad that didn't turn out the other way.
Yes.
I think that's what I must have planted in that pot. A different president.
I sprinkled a little bit of that in there too, girl. So
and that's what I appreciate about our friendship, because we have that witchy vibe going on. We have our moon connection, and we could talk about spirituality and energy and astrology, but then we can really get down and dirty and talk about politics and all of this appropriation and shit. And I really appreciate that about our friendship, because it's very rare in the spiritual community. And I think as women of color, we have to take off our masks, see what I did there, and speak out.
No, I think so too. I mean, it's really rare, because I think also just women in general, we're often silenced and we can't really express ourselves. And, you know, politics, that's not for you, or you're too young to understand, or, you know, are you even from this country? And, you know, those kind of things. And I think, you know, we need to make it important that our voices are heard, that we need to talk louder, that we need to stand up for ourselves. And it's important. I think that's part of leading by example, you know?
Yeah. So 1 year later, now it's 2021, what's next for you? Like, you don't have to like spill the beans on all your projects, but like.
Well, I have some partnerships coming up that are super exciting. I'm evolving the brand into other types of accessories that I'm really excited about. And yeah, I mean, we are moving into more of a global brand, and we will be at, well, I'll break the news here. We will be sold at Saks Fifth Avenue online, which is so exciting. Yes. Yeah, I'm so excited. In the beginning, we had like every single department store you can think of from every country. And, you know, I could not fulfill any orders right away, because again, I was such a baby business. I was a made to order business. And, you know, it took time to figure out how to mass produce things, how to also keep things made in the US, how to also, you know, also I also have women working for me too. That's like,
I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, I do. And they're all women of color, and that is so important to me. And, you know, I don't want to sacrifice quality. I don't want to sacrifice the materials, like that's always been super important to me, and fit. So that took some time in order for me to get to where I am now, and where I'm able to wholesale, when I'm able to mass produce to so many countries around the world. So yeah, I'm so excited for that.
Yeah. And what I saw in your stories, I don't remember if it was yours or AOC's, but you hire women who not hand stitch, but they all sew it.
Yes, yeah, I do. Well, also I have a hats that I also make too, and they actually are all made in Ecuador, which is where my background is, and they're all women making it there. But yeah, everything, because of the fabrics I selected, they are super delicate, that they need to be done one by one. Even how we cut our silk and our linen, all sourced in the US as well. And everything is super detailed. I mean, there's also people that try to knock off my mask, and people say it's just a mask, but the way that it's cut is a certain way that it gives the illusion of like a contour fit. So it kind of slims the face a little bit, because when you wear a mask, it's kind of boxy in general, but this one kind of goes down into a V. So it gives this like really nice illusion of like a slimmer face that's not so masculine. So to get into those grooves and to cut it a certain way is pretty difficult. So after going through massive training with so many people and trying to find the right fit, it took some time to find someone and a team of people to do it correctly. And I mean, our QC is also another thing, that every time every person is assigned a mask, a size, it goes through their hands, and then it goes through another process. So there's a whole assembly line that just to make this mask, and then also the chains are made by hand. They're still being done here, and which is insane.
Wait, in New York, right? In the garment district?
Well, yeah, it's a garment district, and then we have a location in New Jersey as well.
Oh, amazing. Local business.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah, and then the beauty about it too is that the people that we work with, they also suffered during the pandemic. They didn't have any jobs. So I was so excited to know that I'm able to provide jobs for people. Even my team here, we're all women of color, and we're having a lot of issues with, like everyone, without a job, and I'm happy to provide that for women.
You are the gift that keeps on giving. I love it. So if you could give yourself one advice during those times when you were just beginning, when you had less than $10 in your bank account, or any moment in your life where you were just like, how am I going to make this happen? What would you give yourself, or what were the things you were telling yourself?
Well, I definitely was saying a lot to myself. And I think one thing that always keeps me going then and now is that I always lead with gratitude. Constantly be grateful for what I have. Even when I had $10 in the bank, I always try to put my perspective, or try to focus on what I do have. Because when I have that mindset of being positive and or abundant, even if it's just I got $10, okay, woohoo! I know I got more than most. I got my health. I always try to focus on the things that I do have, because with that, I feel that that's what you attract. So I think I want the best advice I can give, or what I was going through in my mind that I constantly try to do is, be positive and lead with gratitude.
I love that advice. And I do the same thing. Whenever I'm focusing on lack, I feel poor. When I focus on being a rich bitch, I feel like, magnetic. It feels good.
Yeah. And one thing that I always say, I constantly do, and even though, I definitely have lost some me time because of my business. I work 7 days a week. It's the one thing I focused on the most. But one thing I still do, and I did it since for years now, is I do mirror work. In the morning, I look in the mirror and I make sure I say something good to myself. I give myself props, because who the hell is going to do it? You have to do it for yourself. So I look in the mirror and I said, you look great. You're going to kick ass. Whatever the task is. And trust me, there's days that I'm going to be like, oh, how am I going to get through the day? And I say to myself, you're going to get through it. You're going to fucking do it.
Yeah.
So I make sure that that's something I do. And I think that's something women need to do, because I know that, there's been this narrative of like, if you're too into yourself, then you are, conceited, or you are, I feel like we need to do that more, because we don't do that to ourselves anymore. I feel like women don't talk good about themselves or about other women. So we need to really do that, for ourselves.
100%. And I was sharing with you before we got on this call, also supporting other women. And it's just heartbreaking that women would be so shady like that. Because, and I won't remember the saying, but as a rising tide lifts all, what that saying is, rises all boats. Like when we all rise together, it's better than just like shitting on somebody. So
yeah,
I really do believe in supporting other women and sharing their voices.
Yeah, I mean, I think with even with my platform that I have, with Second Wind, we have an initiative that we highlight a small business or a business of color, women-owned business actually this month, where we do that. So I think I always try to humble myself and know where I'm at, where like everyone has helped me get to where I am. I know my hard work did, but also it's a community that came together, and it's I need to give back somehow. And I think it's important that we do that we recognize where we're at, and we try to give back and give other people's who don't have a voice, or that has very little attention for their businesses or whatever it is, and recognize them.
You are so inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Is there anything that you wanted to share that I didn't ask you?
No, I mean, I do want to ask you.
Me?
I know I'm going to ask you, yes, about what do you think is, since you were so helpful with our last time for the full moon, what are you thinking is relevant, or what will happen, or what are you seeing is going to happen in the next 6 months?
Well, I feel that 2020 was for us, and I said this and I didn't even know what it meant, because I was being kind of cheeky, because I get these feelings and visions, but for me to translate it into words, it's not as easy. I have my Mercury in Pisces. But what I felt about 2020 was having 2020 vision, like seeing things very clearly, and kind of seeing things the way they are. And for a lot of us, that was not comfortable. And I was sharing with you that I saw a lot of people's truth, and thank God, because now they're not in my life anymore, right? And we saw as a collective, which was always there, racism and our medical system and like what we value in our society. And I love on TikTok, somebody said, America is a third world country with a Gucci belt. And it was like the funniest thing, but it's kind of true. Like we don't value human lives, but we value, these big corporations. And so I really believe that a lot of, our foundations were shaken up. And 2021 is the year of change. It's the 5 numerology year, where you now, with all the information that you know and that you've seen truly, like your life and your foundations or lack thereof, like what are you going to do now about that? because now the responsibility is on you. And as things get back to, again, normal, because they're not ever going to go back to normal, and we don't want them to go back to normal,
No.
because in some senses, like, was America ever great? Which is so ironic that that's like the one thing that he was going on, was make America great again. But was it ever great based on how it was built? I don't know. So I really believe that the onus is on us. The responsibility is in each and every one of us to create change, because we keep going through the same cycles of, you know, like racism and white supremacy and all of these not self-serving things for our society. And change is uncomfortable for a lot of people, and it's not going to be pretty. And a lot of people don't want it to change because it's serving them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these like older institutions, you know, people with the perceived power and wealth, you know, when you say we need to distribute that to everybody, which that's why I love AOC, they're not going to want to do that. So to answer your question, for the next 6 months, I think we're going to see a lot more of this like heightened sensitivity around these issues of race, of our education system, our healthcare system. Mm-hmm. And what you said perfectly is the Aquarian age, about people coming together, people waking up and being like, wait a minute, that chick only has 2 million followers because people are following her. Why don't we unfollow her and not give her clout? Like, you know, we have that power. We have the power to not buy from Amazon and invest in small businesses like yourself. So that's what I see in the next year, in a nutshell.
Well, I actually agree with you 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly hope that it goes smoother than what it was last year. But again, you know, this is tense. Like, everybody has their own ideas of what is true, and everyone has their own ideas of how they want to do it. So we just have to get on the same page about what is the truth, which is that we all just want the same thing, which is to be seen, to be equal, which is these spiritual laws, right? Like, that's why I believe spirituality is so based in social justice, because the people who have been silenced, like Oprah said, like indigenous, like the Black people of our country, Latinos, Latinas, and all the immigrants who have just kind of like just worked hard and did their best. But now it's time for us to be loud and say, no, fuck no.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's really encouraging that the more and more people I speak to, like women of color, and we all have the same feeling. So yeah.
I think we can all do it though. We all come together.
Yes.
And it's happening. You know, we were able to, you know, change what happened 4 years ago. You know, as a collective, we all came together. So I think, you know, like you were saying, this is like a new time for change, that we can't go back. We can't go to the past anymore. We have to live in the present and also change things that are happening.
But also, I think that we each have a responsibility for ourselves to follow our dreams. I really think that a lot of people, myself included, when I used to work in corporate America, we followed this almost trance of what the American dream is, and this like false sense of what we all want in life. And I think that when we get honest with ourselves and really tune into our heart space and what our soul is calling us to do, and really just live in our dream and pursue that, I think this is the time. And that's why I think your story is so powerful, is because you gave yourself that time. You like flipped the script and said, I'm going to use this time to like slow down and go within. And if everybody can do that, even in this year, it's not too late. You can have that creative spark.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I've heard of so many amazing stories that happened, of people, you know, taking that time of rest and finding their purpose, or bettering themselves, educating themselves. And, you know, we have this time. There's a reason why, you know, everything was kind of silenced, and it's almost like the universe talking to us saying, take this time for yourself, because you're never going to have this time with family. You know, if you're constantly working all the time, or you're traveling and you're never with your family, or take in your relationship, in your marriage, and with, you know, with your in-laws, or, you know, with your friendships, you know, and take in the inventory and figure it out. You know, this is the time, because we're never going to get this again. This is never going to happen again.
Yeah.
At least in our time, you know?
Not in this lifetime.
Yeah, no. So just
thank you so much, Karen. I will link all of your information in the show notes. And everybody, please go support her, buy Second Wind, and check out her beautiful masks. Thank you so much, love.
thank you.